Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, or morning or afternoon, depending on where you happen to live. I am Chandler Henry, and welcome to Rise Magic News. Today, we will be discussing performance anxiety, more specifically, what to do when you get nervous or anxious while performing magic, or you're about to perform for a random group of strangers. We're going to talk to our special guest, Chandler Henry. He is one half of Rise Magic and has lots of experience performing for people. He's going to give us some great tips and tricks on how to deal with this divisive topic. Let's cut to him right now. So, you get a little nervous, you get a little anxious while performing magic. Maybe you get really anxious, maybe you start shaking. The first thing I want you to understand is that that is completely normal. In fact, the number one public fear in the United States is public speaking. Not drowning, not burning alive, not falling off a 10-story building. It's public speaking. So imagine having to do public speaking in front of a big group of people while still focusing on the incredibly difficult sleight of hand you have to perform. This fear, this anxiety while performing could manifest itself in many different ways. You could get nervous, your knees could get weak, your palms could get sweaty.
Mom's spaghetti, he's nervous.
But you could also shake, you could also sweat. And the worst part about shaking is that once everyone notices that you're shaking, you're gonna realize, wow, everyone knows how nervous I am. And then you're gonna get even more nervous about them knowing that you're nervous, and it's this endless cycle of death and destruction. Well, let's not be dramatic, it's not that bad. The most important thing I want you to realize right now, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The only way you're gonna get over this fear and this anxiety is through experience. This is why. Why are we fearful of this? It's because we fear the unknown. We don't know if the crowd's gonna accept our magic. We don't know if we're gonna mess up. We don't know if they're gonna catch us in the act. When you have unknowns, that's what causes fear. So the longer you perform, the more these unknowns will become known. You'll have more experience, and I promise you will be much less nervous. But you need to go out and perform anyway, so if you're too nervous, here are some ways to fix it. So, the first tip I would give you when it comes to performing magic for a group of people when you're anxious and scared is making sure your first trick is a quick hitter. What I mean by that is, you're gonna be nervous, you're gonna be anxious, you might have some shakes walking up to a group. As soon as you get that unknown of whether or not they're gonna accept you and know that they like the magic, the sooner that burden is gonna fall off your shoulders and you'll feel more relaxed to move on to bigger and better tricks. So, that first trick you do, you're gonna want it to require as little intensive sleight of hand as possible. Maybe self-working. You're gonna want the plot to move quickly. As soon as that trick flies and feels great, the audience will react wonderfully, your confidence will rise, and you're gonna feel a lot better about yourself. And I promise that sweat, those shakes, they'll slow down and you'll be able to get into your routine. Just hit them quick, hit them hard, for their benefit and yours. Now, if we're talking specifically about the shakes, the sweating, the physical outwardness reaction to your nervous and anxiety, what that is adrenaline. You are nervous, you're scared, and it's being projected outwards. So how can we deal with that? Well, have you ever seen the Avengers? You know the famous clip where the Hulk says,
"That's my secret, Cap. I'm always angry."
that can be you. If you replicate those outward feelings you have while performing, while practicing, you can learn what things you can do under that pressure, what sleights you can still do while you're shaking. It helps you practice and prepare for knowing that you might react like that. Now, you can't necessarily replicate the exact situations of performing, but you can replicate the shakes and the adrenaline. Here's how. I've learned this trick from Chris James, he's another YouTuber who does magic. But you're gonna wanna get on the floor and max out as many push-ups as you possibly can, whether that be 5 or 500. In my case, 5,000. $5,000. When you're done, you're sweating, your hands are sweaty, your hands are gonna be shaking a little bit, and your adrenaline's gonna be pumping because you just got a pump. Now, pick up a deck of cards and you can feel what it's like to perform like that while practicing. You can run through and replicate the exact situation of the shakes, the sweat, and everything while practicing, and you will be set. And the more you perform, the less the shakes are gonna be there in the first place. It's just how to deal with it, all right? Hope this one works for you guys. All right, so this might sound a little corny, a little cliche, but our last tip is to have perspective. Here's what I mean by that. You being nervous, you being anxious, you might think that everyone notices. That is not true. In fact, I'll tell you a story about one time where I actually had the shakes. I didn't get them too often, but this was way back in high school. Our school had a championship volleyball game, and I was just watching the game with my buds. There was a lot of people there. We won the game. After the game was over, my athletic director grabbed the mic and said, "Yo, everyone, Sharon's gonna do some magic." And I'm sitting there like, I didn't know I was gonna do magic tonight. I was just here watching a volleyball game. So, needless to say, because of my lack of preparation for that moment, I was a little bit nervous, I was a little bit scared. So when I had about 100 people watching me, my hands were shaking. And like I talked about before, there's that endless cycle where you realize, wow, everyone can see how nervous I am. This is awful. Now, I never messed up a trick, but I was shaking the whole time I did my routine. Now, that was, I think, 4 years ago. Only recently this summer, I happened to run into a mom who was at the game that night. She said, "Chandler, I will never forget how good you were and how amazing that performance was." And it was like a 4-year-old burden had fallen off my shoulders. A time where I really thought that, wow, everyone noticed how nervous I was. Actually, no one cared. No one cared at all. They just remembered the good magic. So I'll leave you off with that. If you really are nervous about performing, you get nervous while performing, please do not let that stop you. Please use some of the tricks we taught you in this video, because once again, not to sound cliche or whatever, or corny, but I really do believe that life begins at the end of your comfort zone. So if you're scared to do it, that's exactly why you have to go do it. Go bet on yourself. Focus, Ryan. Okay, sorry. Hey, so I really hope you enjoyed that video. I really hope you take these performance tips to heart and use them to better your life and your magic performance skills in general. It really takes a load off. Now, as you may have noticed, our channel has been massively spiking in popularity, and we've been pulling in tons of ad money. So, I decided to surprise Grant and purchase a $10 million studio. Check it out. I think it really adds to the production value of our channel. So, if you want to support my financial irresponsibility, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Specifically comment. I'm really lonely and love talking to you guys. Cut the tape. Cut the tape.